Who the F did I raise age 12?
For those of you who are new here, welcome. I am sharing my experience with our son, Mikey, who is now 18, who has always had challenging mental health issues, who eventually tried to kill us by poisoning us, setting the house on fire, and jumping out of a 2-story window.
Mikey was in therapy, weekly as usual. He had in-home services. He was taking his medications. He was getting one-on-one counseling as well as group counseling. And with all of that, he was still doing all of the things like lying, stealing, running away, torturing Jack in different ways by eating his food, breaking his toys, hurting him when he had an opportunity to because I tried to keep them separate unless I was in the room. He would cut up clothes, his own clothes and Jack's clothes. He would put holes in everybody's shoes. He was just being destructive, harming animals, including our pet Sugar, Chug, half Chihuahua, half Pug. So cute, adopted her. And he played nicely with the puppy in front of other people, but I caught him pulling her whiskers out and hurting her, so we had to rehome Sugar, which was very sad because she had been with us for a while at that time. Anyway, the list goes on and on.
Mikey had finally found a way to poison Quan.
Well, at this time, Quan ended up getting really sick one day. He never gets sick. He never misses work. We don't have those kind of problems with Quan. It's just not in his DNA, right? But during one of Mikey's weekly sessions, he told his therapist that he wasn't only poisoning me and Jackson, he had found a way to poison Quan too. See, he was putting stuff in Quan's toothpaste because Quan would never drink out of any open water containers. He didn't eat any foods that could have been tampered with by Mikey. So Mikey had found another way to poison Quan, which was diabolical within itself because we were taking every precaution to make sure we were careful.
Mikey became bored, and his behavior in school proved that because his behavior escalated on a level that could have ended him in jail.
Also, Mikey was not interested in school at all. We were called every day to school to either pick him up or have a meeting regarding his behavior. He was on IEPs and all kind of stuff. He was stealing from teachers, threatening students. He refused to do the homework. He was falling behind the other students, which was sad because he was so smart naturally that his inability to grasp some of the schoolwork now made his behavior even worse. But I got him a tutor. He wouldn't listen to the tutors. He wouldn't apply himself at all. He refused to try. He would be completely disruptive in classes and at home when it came to doing schoolwork.
Although he was wreaking havoc at school, it didn't make him tired at all. He would take a cat nap and be right up. Mikey did not need rest. He didn't sleep.
One thing that Mikey had for sure was time. He never slept. So he always had time to think up new schemes and ways to attack us or get us. He just became better and better at it. He was still stealing from his teachers, his classmates. He was stealing from us and everyone around him. But it's not like he wanted the things that he was taking. He just got a thrill from doing it. Michael was in middle school at this time, and the kids and the schools are both huge. They look like high schoolers, and the middle schools look like high schools. Well, he decided to go to the 3rd or 4th floor, hold one of his huge, heavy books over the banister during a class change where there's hundreds of students everywhere in the hallways. And he dropped it down to the lower level from the 3rd or 4th level of the school, which could have fatally hurt a child had it hit them in the head. Well, he was placed in an alternative class within the same school, and he was no longer switching classes. Now, he loved that because he didn't have to compete with his other classmates. That just meant he didn't have to apply himself at all now. It's like he just gave up. He was just there to clown and have fun. He did the bare minimum in the beginning, and now he stopped doing that. School was no longer exciting to him. During this time, Mikey decided to bring a knife to school, and then he was kicked out of the school altogether, so he had to attend an actual alternative school. And he rode on the short buses, and he gave them hell. He would run off that bus, and whenever the door opened and he saw an opportunity to do so, he would jump off and run. And that poor bus driver was an older white lady, sweet as pie. He stressed her out so bad. She aged like she was the president of the United States just in that time she drove Mikey. All I could do was apologize and give her little gifts as peace offerings whenever she dropped him off. He had that woman in tears. She would try to pursue him on foot. And finally, I told her, listen, just let him go. Call us and the police, and we will go find him. If he jumps off, that's not your job to stop him. We tried to alleviate some of her stress by dropping him off at school as much as we could, but our schedules changed and we couldn't take him to school, although Mikey was a school rider for several years. Mikey saw this alternative school as a new challenge for him, something that he can meet and conquer. The security guard was a tiny little older black gentleman who was in tip-top shape, honey. Listen, he was a black belt, but he was no match for Mikey. He still managed to run away from this school as well every day, to the point to where we had gotten in trouble for truancy because he was missing so many classes. As a parent, we are still responsible for our children going to school, even if they walk out after you drop them off, turn around, make sure they go in the building, and they walk back out. I understand the premise behind this law, but it's not always as effective as they had hoped, right? However, that's neither here nor there. Mikey had found another way to release his dopamine and serotonin that he needed. And this included stealing from our local stores in the neighborhood. He had started stealing from schools. He was stealing from everybody around us, friends and family. Now he has upped up the ante to the stores in the neighborhood. Mikey would run away while we were asleep, and he would go to Walmart. And Walmart back then was open 24 hours before the pandemonium, right? He would go and buy hundreds of dollars worth of camping supplies with the money that he stole from us. He would then go to a secluded place that he found in a wooded area in our neighborhood, and he would attempt to camp out. Now, mind you, this was a game to Mikey. He wanted to see how long it would take for someone to find him. And I mean, he had everything, a compass, child, everything.
Since Mikey kept running away,
we moved into a second-story apartment, thinking this would stop him from jumping out the window in his room, but it did not. We placed alarms on the windows and doors of the home, so he would just break the double-pane window and jump out anyway, cutting himself in the process, spraining his ankle sometimes, hurting his knee one time. Injured, he would still flee, run away, which made it more interesting for him because remember, this is a game. And he looked at it like, well, I'm injured, and now I got to use my mind to evade the police and my parents. So he won, essentially, if we didn't find him within the first few hours of him hiding. Anyway, during this time, he went missing for longer periods of time, once almost a whole 24 hours. So he ended up on the news, which was another issue within itself, right? When Mikey couldn't get the money he wanted from us, he would steal what he wanted from Walmart mainly and the surrounding stores. We went to GameStop on his birthday to buy him a video game, and the employee recognized him as that little boy that runs away every day. I know you from the news. Cool. You want to sign this game? You want a free game? Yeah, this is what we were dealing with, which only made things worse because now Mikey was a celebrity, honey, and being recognized in public gave him the much needed boost. So now he was running away from school and jumping off the school bus at other children's stops. Things escalated quickly and I was on autopilot. I was still working full time as a substance abuse counselor at the time, and I loved my job, right? I was good at it. No one knew what I was going through at work, but I hardly ever got a chance to rest. But I loved going to work, and it showed in the way that I showed up for my clients.
By this time, I had been through so much. I was exhausted and I was numb, but I still loved the work that I did, and I wanted to make a difference. And I think even more so because I felt like I wasn't making a difference within my home. And as hard as I was trying and I was getting nowhere in my home, at least at work, I was able to see the results of my hard work and efforts.
I was numb, and I was about to experience the worst day of my life. Yeah, I got arrested. So what happened was, Quan and I were at our culmination points, baby, and I was a mom. I felt like a probation officer. I had to be the protector, the provider, and the advocate to the person that's trying to destroy me. It was a disaster. Quan was fed up. I was fed up. And honestly, I wouldn't have survived as long as he did in this position if the roles were reversed. I know he loved us. I know he wanted what was best for us, and he was not willing to sacrifice his family for Mikey, which is also his family, but we had to make a decision, and I just wasn't there yet. We ended up getting into an altercation over one of the kids. All the details are in my book. I cannot rehash it right now. I don't want to rehash it. It is too much. But I felt as though I had to physically intervene to prevent something from happening to one of the kids. But hindsight is 20/20. And the reality of the situation was that none of the kids were in danger. But because I was living in fight or flight mode all of the time for the past years, it was like 5 years at this point, I saw anything remotely assertive as a threat. Long story short, your girl has a mugshot. My clients at the time and my coworkers got a kick out of this. Some of them brought me the Hard Times magazine to sign. It's too much. Moving on. Let's keep going. That's in the book as well. It was humiliating. Mikey was in and out of facilities about 2 hours away for his behaviors and his threats to other students and against us. And you would think that I would have found peace during this time when he wasn't at home, but nope, I didn't, because I was too busy visiting him during the week. I still had to advocate for him because he is still my child. And yes, I did that. And to be honest, I just stopped visiting him every visitation. And I'll tell you why once we get to that age. It's a mess.
Well, thank you so much for watching Who the F Did I Raise? Age 12, Mikey. Remember to get your copy of Picking Up the Pieces to 100 Broken Promises. Available at all major bookstores, on Audible if you want to listen to it while you're driving or sleeping or relaxing or whatever. And also available on Amazon.com. Be safe, everybody.